The teenagers had duffel bags full of printed Zimbabwean notes because you needed them to buy the food in the grocery store. So you would take your US dollars, like a $10 bill, to the teenager in the parking lot, and then he would basically give you an armful of Zimbabwean notes, several trillion. And there was a guy in the grocery store, his whole job was to take and reprice everything. When he gets done repricing everything, he just goes back to the first thing he reprices it again. Welcome to Sat Chat's Rehash, the Bitcoin podcast where we chatting about sats. We're going to be going over number 44, Evan, number 45, John, and number 46, Draco today. I'm your host, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of the Hummus Bitcoin Smash Buyer. Smash the subscribe button. And if you do, you could win 1 million sats if you're one of our first 1,000 subscribers, and you'll help us unlock that Friday show.
So these 3 episodes, we're going to be talking about them. We're going to be talking about how we felt about them. We're going to be helping you figure out whether you want to go back and listen to them, because we get it. We get what we're doing, okay? It's a lot of content. We don't expect you to keep up with it. I think even my mom and dad are trying as hard as they can to keep up with our content. I mean, they are trying.
Yeah.
My dad's out there chopping an oak tree, listening to it. My mom's knitting, listening to it. Like, they spend several hours a day trying to catch up with us, so they can tell me how they feel and what their feedback is. If my mom and dad can't keep up, we don't expect you all to keep up.
It's a part-time, full-time job.
It's a part-time, full-time job, but I mean, learning about Bitcoin is super, super important.
Yeah.
And look, April 2028, you just got to make it. All you Satillionaires out there, we love you. You're listening along, especially the rehashes. I feel like Satillionaires listen to the rehashes and everybody else skips over them.
Yeah.
Especially considering what we learned from Raymond.
Yes.
But, if you can make it to April 2028, that's when we will cut our new supply in half alongside the Bitcoin halving. And then it'll be more manageable for you, I promise.
Yeah.
2 to 3 sat chats per week, 1 short stack on the weekend. It'll be much easier for you all.
The other thing to mention is the various playlists we have. We understand that if you just go to our page, it's kind of like all over the place. And that's because we're testing, we're doing different stuff, we're numbering things differently. And, this is the beginning of our journey. So we do a lot of testing and learning here at SatChat. So we've tried to, in our playlist section, organize things for you so that it's in order and separated by the various content styles that we have.
Yeah, like right now, it's all of our sat chats are in order. So you can start with number 0, Stuart and Chris, and work your way all the way up to number 61.
Maybe we ought to do a chit chat about what are sat chats. We know what they are.
Yeah.
But are we just talking to ourselves?
How do we orient people?
What are short stacks? What are chit chat? I mean, we got a lot of different.
People are like, dude, they got the sat chat, short stack, chit chat, this and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here,
where my ladies at?
Look, so here's what I'll say to you, Satillionaires out there. I think where we want to go ultimately with the YouTube channel is for you to hit that page and very quickly find the answer to your question in the length of time you desire. So if your question is, what is a Satoshi, for example, we want you to be able to very quickly go, okay, here's the sat chat where we really get into the basics, because I want to listen while I drive. I'm okay to just take 45, 54 minutes to do that. Or here's what is a Satoshi as a short stack. 9 to 12 minutes, we're talking about it, or even a chit chat that goes over. So basically, I want our Satillionaires to have a question and be able to go to our page and see where we cover it. Because every single episode, no matter what the format is, if it's our long form sat chat, if it's our mid-tier short stack, or, we're going to be releasing a brand new content type called a chit chat soon, which is 3 to 6 minutes. all of those are titled in the form of a question. So that if you as a beginner have that question, you click on that episode. You'll see there's no episode titles that are a statement or an exclamation or anything. They're all questions. Right?
Yeah.
So that way, like right here, we're going to be going over number 44, Evan, today. What if Bitcoin did a stock split? Whoa, okay. What if? Here's John. Is Bitcoin more than just money? I don't know. Let me find out. Or what happens when money dies? Right? So that's how that's my creative vision. Is for everything to be in the form of a question.
I think that's really smart. And because at an even higher level, what we're trying to do here at Sat Chats is build the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center. And there are a lot of ways that we try to make every decision that to serve that mission, you know? And so things like, well, we're trying to answer questions. So we're going to title our episodes in the form of a question that serves the mission.
Right.
The idea of orange pilling one pre-coiner at a time on our show and taping that experience serves the mission, even though it's just one person at a time. The idea of bringing Bitcoiners onto the show to share their experience with our beginner audience serves the mission. So,
and bringing guests back on in 9 months so that we can track over time just how impactful Bitcoin is. That serves the mission.
Yeah.
We haven't done it once yet because we haven't been in biz for 9 months.
We're only 100. We're only 100 days. We're 99 days old today.
Oh, 99 days old today. Let's go. Yeah. 99 days. Okay, let's go.
Can you believe that? Wait till we post this thing and just try to wow, this show is 99 days old. Look at the volume of content that they have produced and published. And that was intentional.
It's all in the name of Bitcoin.
We wanted to dive into this, and we knew that we were going to learn a ton, make a lot of mistakes, try things, learn things, get better. And we wanted to accelerate that process because we were just that excited about Bitcoin.
And this show is built just like Bitcoin. So we are in epoch 1 where if our content is Bitcoin, it's just spilling out everywhere.
Yeah.
50 Bitcoin per block every 10 minutes. That Bitcoin was just flooding in that first epoch. And we are too.
This little segment we just did here, it's also a nice little behind the scenes, why did we do this? Really interesting conversation.
Yeah, we're jamming on it.
Let's get to, or if you're ready.
Good. We're great and we love it.
Yeah.
And we have so much fun.
Yeah.
And y'all are going to come with us.
Yeah.
And we're going to the moon.
Yeah.
So and you know who's going to come with us to the moon? Number 44, Evan. So take a look at his thumbnail here. It says second Satillionaire.
Evan's our boy. Who I don't even remember how he actually found us in the first place. Maybe it was through the Million Sats giveaway, but something.
No, it was organically on YouTube.
Oh.
And then he started listening on Spotify.
Okay.
Because he's a field sales rep.
Remember that, yeah.
Got windshield time.
Yeah.
Raleigh out to the east, out to the west.
Yep.
So found us organically on YouTube, flipped to Spotify so he could listen to us while he drives. And over the course of listening to us, he learned that we were in Raleigh. Because we were saying, we dropped it here, we dropped it there, that we were in Raleigh. And of course, at the beginning of every show, we say, come on to the dang gum show.
Yeah, get in the studio.
Sat Chats is for everyone.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, hang on. I'm going to do that. So he went to the website, satchats.com. There's only one button. You click it. It takes you to our calendar. You pick your date and time. You're done. So he did that. So he's the second Satillionaire. I'm going to say number 32 is Lucola's number. Let's see if I'm right.
Yeah.
Number 32, Lucola, ripped it. The first Satillionaire.
Yeah.
And number 44, Evan, is the second Satillionaire. We'll have a playlist that's just Satillionaires who have come on the show. Hot. It'll get good. We're going to be spliced. We're going to be cutting it up all.
We're going to have all sorts of playlists.
It's going to be juicy for you guys.
Yeah.
So what can you remember about Evan's episode? Because his title was, "What if Bitcoin did a stock split?"
Well, I remember that Evan was very impressive to me because at a pretty young age, he was financially savvy. He'd been planning and saving for his future since college.
Mm-hmm.
His wife is pregnant now.
Yeah.
And, I think because he's been responsible with his finances, he's excited for that and can really enjoy it, which was great to see. I could just tell in the conversation that he was excited and felt ready financially. And I don't remember precisely, what caused him to move into Bitcoin and if he's purely Bitcoin now or what, but I know that he was able to parlay a lot of education that he got in the traditional TradFi world as a personal, a retail investor into his working knowledge today of Bitcoin.
So he had that move up to Richmond after college to be a sales rep up there. So he was on his own pretty soon after university and had to figure out how to take care of himself, how to get his laundry washed, how to cook his food, and how to take care of his finances. And that moment taught him that he needs to figure out how to make it so that he's not working his whole life till he's dead, basically, right? Like he was looking down the barrel of like 4 decades of work.
Yeah.
And being like, man, am I really trying to do this for that long? And really in today's world, you might need to go longer than, 25 to 65. I don't even know if that's real anymore. So he was like, how can I do this? And yeah, I don't know if he did some TradFi before getting into Bitcoin or what. I do remember, and we didn't talk about this on the show, he's like hyped on these NFTs that are like claymation dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I think they're called Claynos.
Yeah.
And
he posts about that on Twitter a lot.
Yeah. He's a big Clayno guy on Twitter. And like I think the whole idea is that you buy these claymation dinosaurs to where you own that dinosaur. And then when like eventually they're going to use that to like make a TV show. And like I guess you'll need to be paid for the appearance of your claymation dinosaur on the TV. I don't know. It's almost like if you could buy like Bluey, like if you owned Bluey or if you owned Dad or if you owned Mom, like they're being used in the show, but like the royalties come back to use them. I don't know, dude.
One thing I agree with him on is claymation has been gone for far too long. It needs to make a comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the kind of claymation they could do today.
Yo, dude.
Versus like the Gumby stuff that we used to have.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be.
And to be fair, like Nightmare Before Christmas is claymation, and that's a full-on masterpiece. That is a masterpiece.
Yeah, true.
So I think he has some NFTs. He has some NFTs. I think he has some crypto as well. But he's a Bitcoiner. Like his Twitter talks about being a Bitcoiner. Like he's not one of those guys that just thinks Bitcoin is another one of the cryptos. He knows Bitcoin is Bitcoin, but he's also in that space enough to be engaged with a handful of cryptos that he really likes and a handful of NFTs. And that's fine. That's fine. Right. Because we're Bitcoin gentlemen here. Yeah. We're not crypto bros. No. We're not toxic Bitcoin maxis.
Yeah.
Unless I'm around other toxic Bitcoin maxis, then I do open it. I'm like, Cable, open up for now. And I just let it hang out.
Yeah.
But
I've seen that. It's weird. It's weird.
Is it weird to see my toxic Bitcoin maxi come out?
Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
So after we got his Bitcoin story, one of his biggest questions was, well, hey man, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And we want to make sure there's enough Bitcoin to go around. So can't we just do a stock split? Can't we just do 42 million Bitcoin? And if you had 2 Bitcoin, well, now you get 4 Bitcoin. But it opens up more Bitcoin for everyone else. So like, let's imagine 21 million Bitcoin, 18 million are owned, 3 million are flying around out there. They do a stock split. You get yours doubled to where 36 million are now rolling. But now you have 6 million Bitcoin that can rotate around instead of just 3. And you helped him see, and I think that was the episode where I think for the first time you said fractionalizing. Like we don't increase the supply, we fractionalize the Bitcoin down. And I was like, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have episodes where one of us says something baller.
Yeah.
You know, you had that. I think that was the episode where you talked about fractionalizing down. There was another episode where you talked about Bitcoin rewards responsibility. I was like,
yeah,
huge.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the great joys of doing this every day is that I'm on my journey too, like everybody else, and so just by having these conversations, things click for me, and sometimes it happens right on the show like that.
Same here. So we talked to him about how now you have 100 million Satoshis. And if it turns out 2.1 quadrillion units is not enough, come on, guys, then you could break that down even further. It's important to note that you would need all the nodes, all of Simple Steve's Philosopher Kings, to approve that by upgrading their software to include that element. Because one thing I didn't know is that the Satoshi is hard coded as the smallest unit of a Bitcoin on the blockchain. So you can't make 100 million smaller units inside each Satoshi unless everyone who runs a full node says yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, when we get there, I want it to be known that my proposal is to call them Nakamotos. Okay. Right?
Nox.
Inside each Satoshi is 100 million Nakamotos.
And you call them Nox.
Nox, right? Nox.
Sats and Nox.
So first you went from buying Bitcoin to stacking sats to rocking Nox.
Yeah.
Stocking Nox, rocking Nox. Stocking Nox.
My Nox stock.
I'm stocking Nox, dude. Stay humble and stock Nox.
All right, let's do it.
So,
John Bianchi.
Number 45, John. Okay. Armored Polar Bears.
Wow, that was 4 weeks ago, huh?
That's the thumbnail title. And then his episode is Bitcoin More Than Just Money. What can you remember about John's episode? Or how you felt about it? Doesn't necessarily need to be a factual regurgitation.
Yeah, like, how did I feel? I felt as though he had a solid understanding of Bitcoin, and he enlightened me with some use cases for Bitcoin that I hadn't thought of before.
For me, when he was describing the blockchain as a series of mini storage units and describing this concept of sending information along with the transaction to go live in that storage unit until you needed it for later. And I just don't know if that's how it works. I don't know if that's how it works. But then in the comment section, like our boy DS Flat, he's one of our, there's like a couple of guys who are turning into the 9 ring wraiths.
Yeah.
To our, Sauron.
Yep.
Dark Tower style.
Enthusiastic.
Richard Puente, nice. DS Flat, OG Furious.
Yeah, I call that entrepreneurial currency. You know, when you're early on and you're starting out, for me with Ithaca Hummus, I would go in and I would visit the same store, look at the same shelf like 3 or 4 times a day, just to see that like one had been sold. And I would just be like, oh my God, that's in somebody's refrigerator right now.
Yeah.
I put it there this morning and now it's gone. Where is it?
Yeah.
And that would energize me, and it would give me the insane amount of energy that I needed to just burn the candle at both ends for many, many years. And I feel like these, these commenters and these people that have really latched on to Sat Chats and are a big part of our community do that for us.
Yeah. Like, there were a couple of comments that were like, there were DS Flat and like one other person was like, look, all I do is consume Bitcoin content, and yours is the only one I look forward to each day. Like, what's that episode going to be today? Who are they chatting about? sats with today. And like that stuff does energize us.
Yeah.
But anyways, like DS Flat was like, man, this guy gets it. He knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
Richard was like, yo, where's the link to that private phone? Like people resonated with John. I need to understand for myself whether the blockchain operates the way that he says it does. Because for me, the blockchain is a vehicle for Bitcoin transactions. And I get that there are runes and ordinals, which are doing things with the blockchain in order to create unique transactions or unique coin. I don't know. But it was almost like he was saying that you could like, maybe you could send a video file up with your Bitcoin transaction and keep it there securely, maybe privately. I don't know. Because then he also had the private phone where I understand what a private phone is. I could get he talked about getting a Pixel and putting Graphene OS on it and having a private experience. And I know all about that.
Yeah.
But then there was this like eSIM that he was talking about where you could either you bought it with Bitcoin.
Right. That was it.
I don't know, but in my mind, I was like, is he saying that the phone is powered by Bitcoin? I think what he was trying to say is that you could buy the eSIM privately with Bitcoin from an address that hasn't been tracked, for example, to where it's just easier for you not to associate your name to that phone. Michael Bazell wants you to have somebody who doesn't care about their privacy go into a store and buy your new phone for you in cash.
It's the same thing.
So I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, maybe, but I don't know. I need to learn from myself if that's how that blockchain works. Like
good rigorous honesty there.
Yeah, because somebody else was, I think Simple Steve, he was kind of saying, look, man, Bitcoin is money, but Bitcoin is a whole new form of computation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It solves the copy paste problem.
Yeah.
And when I hear something like that, I'm like, dude.
From a rocket scientist?
Yes. It's like, whoa, I need to remember that Bitcoin is digital scarcity that we're using as money.
Right.
But it also can be used for other things that make it even more valuable. And it's like, man, I really don't know if anybody knows just how powerful Bitcoin actually is. And I think 100 years from now, it will have reshaped everything.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
So I left John's episode feeling like I needed to continue to work on my privacy because I really crave it to the maximum extent possible. I mean, obviously, if you want to vote, then all your privacy is destroyed immediately. But you can make yourself a little bit of a harder target. And then we had number 46, Draco. His thumbnail, duffel bag hustle. Can you remember what that's a reference to?
Yeah. Yeah. The hyperinflation of some country that he was in Africa where they literally had duffel bags of this cash in trunks of cars and they were selling duffel. What were they doing with it again?
So the teenagers had duffel bags full of freshly printed Zimbabwean notes because you needed them to buy the food in the grocery store. So you would take your US dollars, like a $10 bill, to the teenager in the parking lot of the grocery store, and then he would like basically give you an armful of Zimbabwean notes in exchange for $10, like several trillion Zimbabwean dollars. And then you would take them into the grocery store. And there was a guy in the grocery store. His whole job was to take the price gun and reprice everything.
All the time.
All the time. When he gets done repricing everything, he just goes back to the first thing he reprices it again. Because the inflation was so nuts there that nobody could hold on to cash. He talked about how some Zimbabweans were taking their cash and buying cinder blocks and then piling up the cinder blocks and tarping it in their backyard because the cinder blocks were going to hold their value better than the Zimbabwean currency.
Yeah.
Dude. Americans need to understand that inflation is the worst. And I saw some YouTuber the other day who is like, hey, I'm a former Wall Street, whatever. And now I teach people about stuff and I'm on YouTube. And she's like, let me explain to you why inflation is good. And I was like, no.
No, I would honestly love to have someone on the show who could explain to me one good thing about inflation. I mean, what's good about inflation?
And look, if we can get her on, because we'd love to have her on, when she explains to us why inflation is good, she'll be doing it from inside a fiat system.
Yeah.
And just like Draco said, you can't read the label from inside the jar.
I love that.
You can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yeah.
So that your explanation is going to be busted.
Yeah.
Because you're still inside the jar.
Yep.
So Draco was really good too because he was an OG.
Mm-hmm.
He had Bitcoin on Mount Gox.
Mm-hmm.
After 10 years, he finally got 1/6 of his Bitcoin back, which was still worth more than his entire stack when it was lost.
Pretty impressive, honestly, of Mount Gox and the Japanese government for seeing that through.
Yeah, that is impressive. I mean, obviously it's a disaster, but it's impressive that they stuck with it and tried to clean it up as best they could.
Good for them.
So for Draco, I felt like, man, I'm glad I got to meet this guy.
Yeah.
We want to teach brand new Bitcoiners about Bitcoin, but we also want to build a network of Bitcoiners who have more experience, strength, and hope than us.
Yes.
Because we want to take theirs and then we want to absorb it and we want to send it along down to those who are newer than us.
Yes.
And Draco has those connections, right?
Yeah.
So let's clean up our side of the street, okay?
This is the fun part because I don't have to remember anything.
So this is coming to us from Evans. So Bitcoin can simply be stock split by voting to raise the cap from 21 million to 42 million. So Chappie's saying, I mean, this is kind of what we were saying.
Yeah.
Chappie's saying a supply increase would require a consensus-breaking hard fork. Every full node would have to adopt new software because users overwhelmingly run code that enforces 21 million. A vote alone cannot change the limit.
Cool.
I mean, we that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
When we talk about a node voting, we talk about a node upgrading its software to reflect the rules that it wants to enforce.
Right.
Man, Simple Steve has fully helped me so bad with nodes.
Well, that's great. And also maybe at tonight's meetup, we ask if someone could explain to us the difference between a soft fork and a hard fork.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't get it. You might, and we don't have to talk about it right now, but like if we could go and get that information and then make a chit chat or a short stack about it.
Yeah.
That's kind of intermediate level stuff. It's not beginner. But again, maybe we do playlists in the future that it's
I agree.
Beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Yeah, I agree. And part of what we want to do on the show is help Satillionaires understand that Bitcoin is something that we made as humans. So the Immaculate Conception, the fact, Bitcoin as being absolutely perfect is not true. Bitcoin had bugs. Bitcoin had fixes. Bitcoin is a thing that we've made. And people think, oh, that makes it scary. No, that's part of what makes it great. It's money that we can upgrade over time. Don't you guys get it? That's what makes it good.
Yeah.
And so talking about soft forks, hard forks, bugs, things like that could help. And then this is kind of what we talked about earlier in the show. We said if 21 million coins are ever too few, we can add 100 million microsats per Satoshis. We talked about Yoshi Satoshis. And Chappie's pointing out that we would need a hard fork to get smaller than the Satoshi. The Satoshi is the smallest unit on chain. Sub-Satoshi amounts only exist off-chain, like the Lightning Network uses milli-Satoshis. So changing the base unit on chain again needs a hard fork. And there was a nice comment where some guy was like, hey man, you guys are a bunch of silly heads. It looks like you can choose whatever unit you want. You're just making stuff up. Like he just was like, anything less than 1 Bitcoin, it's just all just a fugazi. And I was like, hey man, just real quick, a Satoshi is literally the smallest unit, and that's part of the code. And if we wanted to go deeper, you'd have to change it. And he's like, oh, I didn't know that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember that response because you overextended yourself in being polite and courteous and appreciating his comment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good because, again, that serves our mission. Bitcoin Welcome Center.
Yeah.
We want to be welcoming. We
Yeah.
do not want to scare anyone or shame anyone away from feeling like they can ask any question that they have, no matter where they are in their journey.
Exactly.
Nice.
And we did just get a comment where someone was like, ha ha ha, you guys are dummies. I'm like, oh,
that's fine.
Bro.
No, that's all good.
Bro. Okay, we won't worry about this. Next one here. Look at this. I like this one too.
Yeah.
This is me saying this. One Bitcoin is really worth $44 million today because I'm dividing Michael Saylor's 900 trillion by 21 million to get 44 million per coin. Chappie's saying the world gross domestic product is 105 trillion as of 2024. 105 trillion divided by 21 million is about $5 million a coin, not $44 million a coin. But I'm not talking about the world's gross domestic product.
Yeah, you're talking
I'm
about
talking about everything.
Yeah.
Art, real estate, silver, gold, all of it, right?
Yeah.
But then we also learned from Chappie that some of that stuff's double counted because of the way debt works. So all I know is that Bitcoin is worth the entire world. So Bitcoin is the whole world divided by 21 million.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it's worth the whole universe as we continue to explore and go to new planets. So like a lot of Bitcoiners say, one Bitcoin, it's infinity divided by 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a Bitcoin is worth. Most of the outstanding Bitcoin is already held by exchanges or institutions. She says on-chain analytics show roughly 12 to 15% of supply sits on exchanges in 2025. The majority is still in self-custody wallets. How do you feel about that?
I love that. That makes me feel real warm and fuzzy inside.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Because we have a lot. I mean, I listen to a lot of Bitcoin podcasts, Holler, OVs. And for the past year, one of the central themes across all these podcasts has been, are the ETFs good?
Are they
Are the
gobbling up?
ETFs bad?
Are they re-centralizing? Yeah.
Are they going to control Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Is this taking the original, spirit of Bitcoin away? And the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
No. If 85 to 88% of all Bitcoin is still held in self-custody wallets, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And that, I mean, I'm not sure if that number is quite right because I think she's saying 12 to 15% of the Bitcoin supply sits on exchanges like Bitcoin Well, River, Coinbase. Well, actually, I was going to say that doesn't account for the ETFs, but most of the ETFs are on Coinbase.
Yeah.
But Clark Moody says that corporations are holding about 11%.
That's fine.
But you could even add 11 to 15, get 26, and say 3 out of every 4 Bitcoins are still controlled by sovereign individuals. Come on, man.
Exceptional. That's fantastic.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And what do you think someone with a lot of Bitcoin is going to do if they end up selling some of it to these institutions or exchanges for fiat dollars? They're going to take that money. They're going to change the world with it. They're going to do something incredible with it that's going to get them more money back. They're going to buy more big. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Or like Simple Steve. Oh my God, dude. You know what he said to me at that first meetup?
What?
He was like, do you think any of us long-term holders are ever going to sell? He was like, he's like, because, our class, we're class of 2024. We came in for our reasons. Class of 2020 came in for their reasons.
They're just like hardened and hardened and hardened as you go back in time.
Simple Steve's class, they came in because they don't want US dollars at all. No fiat currency at all.
Yeah.
They don't want it at all. They're not holding it to sell it. They don't want that. They'll never buy. They're never going to buy dollars with their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because that's worthless garbage.
Yeah.
And they don't want it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So it makes me feel pretty good too.
Yeah, I love that.
IBM was building blockchains in the late 1970s. I'm not sure who said that one. I don't know. Was it John? Maybe it was John.
Could have been.
Chappie says Merkle tree-based structures and replicated databases existed, but the term blockchain and Nakamoto-style consensus did not appear until Bitcoin's 2008 white paper.
Wow. Was the white paper the first? Was that where the term blockchain was coined?
I'd love to know that.
That would be insane.
But it's like Simple Steve said, where Bitcoin appeared almost as if an alien placed it there.
Oh, God.
It's
so
as
true.
if I was listening to the episode today on the way to the studio. He said, it's as if the Wright brothers built an airplane out of lawnmower parts in one day.
Yeah. It's like, how is this possible?
Put it in the comments if you think Satoshi is an alien. They're demons. So this one's cool too. And this goes back to what I was saying. Bitcoin has never suffered a critical bug, only a tiny double spin. So Draco pointed out that Bitcoin is a piece of software that is remarkably resilient. It's never been hacked. Not one time. But it has, and it's not like, I think he was talking about software like, you know, we get updates in our web browsers and on our smartphones and all the time. This features security updates, bug fixes, all that stuff. Software is just full of holes. Mm-hmm. But Bitcoin compared to that software is ironclad.
Yeah.
And he mentioned a tiny double spend. So Chappie says critical bugs did occur. August 2010, an integer overflow bug created 184 billion Bitcoin, but the chain was quickly rolled back.
These integers.
I would love to look into that myself to understand it, because sometimes Chappie hallucinates, especially this 03 model. We'll see. And she also says that in March 2013, a 0.8/0.7 fork split the network for 6 hours. So we'll have to see. I would like to go in and learn more about those moments where Bitcoin had a problem, because I think I owe it to our Satillionaires to know that information.
Absolutely.
And to be able to say, this is part of why it's so good. Because you can't update fiat. Can't upgrade fiat. Owning half the coins lets a single entity call the shots over Bitcoin. And I think this is what we were talking about maybe with the Draco, with the ETFs, you know, with corporations starting to gobble up Bitcoin. And the formatting breaks down here a little bit, but I know how to follow it.
Okay.
Chappie says monetary policy is enforced by the rules each node runs. Monetary policy in Bitcoin is enforced by the philosopher kings who run full nodes, whether they have a single Satoshi or not. So it's not enforced by people who own Bitcoin. It's enforced by people who run nodes, and it's enforced through the version of the Bitcoin software that they choose to run. Your full node running your version of the Bitcoin software is your vote. Incredible. Which means that me, as a class of 2024, can enforce the rules of Bitcoin as much as someone who's from the class of 2009. Bitcoin's for everyone. It's the great equalizer. I freaking love it. So just because BlackRock's getting a bunch of Bitcoin doesn't mean BlackRock can control the Bitcoin network. They can't say, oh, we've got a lot of Bitcoin now, we're going to hard fork. That's not how Bitcoin works. You need a node. And then you need to say, well, I'm going to go over here with this software. And all the other philosopher kings say, good luck, you're exiled, dummy. So that one was really interesting. Monetary policy is enforced by the rules each node runs, not by who owns coins. Large holders can move price, but cannot unilaterally change consensus rules. Skowadoosh. And then I think we're pretty much good on the rest. That stuff's kind of nitpicky.
All right.
So that was number 44, Evan, the second Satillionaire. Number 45, John, who was talking about that digital future, the private phone. And number 46, Draco, an OG who witnessed rampant inflation firsthand in Zimbabwe, got trapped there during the pandemic, and knows we need to fight against it with Bitcoin. Even if it doesn't feel that bad to you here in America, your pot's still boiling, baby. You know what I mean? The fire's underneath that pot, whether you know it or not. So this has been another episode of Sat Chats Rehash. 3 ways to support the show. You can zap us your lightning, satchats@getalby.com. You can come on the show, satchats.com to show up. You can send us some on-chain Bitcoin to the address in our show notes. Smash the subscribe button. The first 999 plus one of you will be entered to win 1 million sats. You'll unlock a live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m., and you'll help us on the road to number 99. My wife, Kristen.
Let's go.
Sat Chats Rehash is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our Chappie's views are her own.
She might be hallucinating.
03 is good, but it's tripping a little bit.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.